Ayala, you see me? You see
Yeah,
me? Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
I'm here.
Beautiful.
Hear
Listen,
me?
I can hear you. I'm not a dumb guy, but I'm not the smartest guy. I'm like here, maybe here, sometimes here. With technology, I'm kind of here, right?
Right?
So a Zoom call, everyone's doing it, but a lot of them are maybe younger than you and me. Maybe they don't the little bits of gray in them beards, man. So I think this is working. Red light is on. It says it's recording, and I'm gonna go with it.
All right.
All right, friends. With that stupid preamble aside, Mike Woods here with shall I call you a living legend? Fort Worth, Texas. One of the real good guys. He was in a lighter weight when he was fighting, and then he was engaged in some classic fights. Which guess what? Y'all can revisit now. We got the coronavirus shutdown on live fights, and what one of the things that's resulting in is boxing fans are going back and maybe seeing for the first time some of these classic fights, like the one with you and your man, all-time rival, Johnny Tapia. Is that right, Paulie Ayala?
Yeah, for sure. That was a good rivalry. Luckily and happily, we made up. Eventually, a few years after all those fights.
All right, so let's bring it back to the beginning, if you don't mind, a little bit. And folks, I talked to Paulie before. I said, "Hey, man, give me a time frame you want to talk for, because I'm a yapper, and I also like to listen. So sometimes these can run on a little bit long, and people that don't like to yap like I do are like, they're probably looking at their damn watch." So Paulie said, "All right, like 15 minutes or so." So I'm going to try to talk quick. New York people usually do. Bring us back to how you started, why you started into boxing. You're a Texas guy. Tell us about the beginning, the origin.
Well, there's a lot of history in Texas boxing, and especially in Fort Worth, Texas, Fort Worth, and Dallas. I started out as an amateur. I was doing exhibitions at 4 years old. I mean, and on my first team that I fought for, we had Bruce Curry and Donald Curry that went on to become world champions as well. So I mean, there was a lot of talent in the DFW. So continuing boxing as I became a teenager, uh, there was a gym called David Gorman's Gorman Masonry Boxing Club, and David Gorman was the owner. He had Donald Curry, Bruce Curry, Troy Dorsey, Steve Cruz, Gene Hatcher, Robin Blake. I mean, they were all in the same gym. So I mean, there was a lot of thriving boxing at that time, and so I was just in the mix of all that.
And quick, people like to know your home life growing up, socioeconomically and such. Was it a situation, good home, stable home, or rough home? And so you found a sort of a place to find yourself and find solace in the boxing ring. What was the household like growing up?
My folks were together, but my deal that I felt that boxing helped me was it was my pops was a Vietnam vet, so I he was a Marine Semper Fi Devil Dog, and that's how it was 24/7 for myself and my brother. So whenever I'd go to the gym, I didn't realize that all that training was actually releasing dopamine and some feel good chemical to where I was able to forget about all of my stress as a kid, and not realizing that that's what made me become a better fighter by doing that, by relieving and releasing stress. I was able to, it benefited me in the ring.
Paulie, that's a huge thing. I'm really glad that you mentioned that. You're talking about the correlation between boxing, working out, training, and tension and anxiety relief. So many positives with boxing. A lot of people like to focus on negatives, Paulie, and say, well, why are you getting hit in the head so much? People don't even have to get hit in the head. You can do the boxing workouts. my friend at Gleason's Gym, Bruce Silverglade, is setting up remote workouts with the trainers there. A lot of you guys are doing that. So it's a great thing. It's a great pick-me-up. And I like what you said about you were able to get away from some of the intensity at home, and you find different people that use their intensity in a different way than someone who went to Vietnam and saw all sorts of horrors, and we can only imagine. So that gives me a better sense of where you're coming from. I do want to know if you can set the table for people that weren't aware of that era in bantamweights and such. How were U.S. fight fans looking at you guys? Were you getting the proper degree of respect and compensation and such? In the middle to later 90s.
Yeah, I believe so because I mean there was a lot of competition in there. I mean there was a lot of great fighters. So when you have a lot of great fighters, just like the welterweight division today, I mean that's probably one of the biggest division, and now the heavyweight starting to mix it up a little bit. But yeah, when there's a lot of great fighters in there, big names in there, I mean it creates interest. And I was fortunate enough to be there when all the guys were there, with Barrera, Morales, Tapia, Bones, even Too Sharp Johnson, the Marquez brothers. I mean, they were all around at that time, so they created a lot of interest.
It was a bit of a golden era, that's right. And you had HBO understanding more so already by that time. The little guys can put on a hell of a fight. You're going to beat the little guys, quote unquote. There's going to be much more activity and volume there. So if you could bring us to right up the lead up, when did they start talking about matching you with Tapia? And give me the lowdown on how that first fight came together, Paulie.
Well, I mean, I had been fighting. I was undefeated for 6 years. I was the NABF champion for 3 years. I had defended it about 6 or 7 times, and I finally became a mandatory to fight for the WBC, and it was in Japan. So I went up to Japan and, hoping to bring back that belt, and it ended on a technical decision. I lost because we accidentally headbutt, and they deducted 2 points because they said I intentionally headbutt them. Went to the scorecards. So I came home. I was 27 or 28-1, and so I didn't think I was ever going to get another shot. So I just stayed busy. Immediately after that, I took a couple fights, and then I get another phone call, and they tell me that I have another title shot. I thought it was a rematch, but it was going to be a shot against Johnny, and so by looking at it in hindsight though, I remember that they had offered Johnny a lot of other guys that they said that he could beat, that I was going to be the tougher fight, and because it was a pay-per-view, he wanted to take me. So I mean it was that loss was basically probably a blessing in disguise.
Oh, blessings in disguise happen in boxing all the time. I think fair to say, right? Not as much as some people would like, but strange sport that way. So you have Tapia, who is a New Mexico guy. And by now, I think a lot of people who will be taking in this content know pretty well. Mi Vida Loca, this is an interesting guy. This is an up and down guy. This is a guy who has had tremendous problems, extremely talented, but was the head always screwed on straight? The Tapia, this version in 1999, what Tapia was that? What was your perception of Johnny at that time?
Oh yeah, I mean he was at the top of his game. I mean he had just got out, and he had won a world title, and I mean he had moved up to the bantamweight division as well, and he had just got through beating Danny Romero at junior bantam, and then he went up to bantamweight and won another world title. So
right. So the meeting with Danny there was huge for him. This was the young guy trying to supplant the older vet, and so Tapia was really at a peak then. Now,
right.
And so this was quite a big deal in that division sphere. This fight getting made, yes?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It was. I mean, it was the top Johnny, that I mean, he was at the peak of his career.
Such a fun fighter watch, and always so interesting because he had the goings on. There was the drug problems, et cetera, et cetera. So this fight gets made. Did you have to, in your mind, say to yourself, all right, I know that there's going to be maybe an interesting lead in, maybe there's going to be some trash talking, or did you not really concern yourself with that? Were you just like, no, I'm going to get ready, and I know I have to set a technical game plan in place because this is a very accomplished pugilist I'm going to be fighting?
I really didn't trash talk like I wish I probably should have, but I think I would have made more money. But
That's not you, man. Look, you're a nice guy. You're a good dude. You can't be what you're not, right?
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I couldn't try to act, like something I wasn't. And but I knew what I was in for. I mean, it was again the biggest fight of my career because no one's seen my fight in Japan, so they don't know that how it ended. And to me, I already had the champion cut, so they didn't know anything that happened. As far as they know, that is that I fought for the big one and I couldn't handle it, and I fell short. So coming into this one, I knew I wasn't going to let anything slip away, and I was gonna go 100% dive in head first, and that way I won't have any, I wouldn't have to look back at at anything and say coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Paulie, as we're going to be watching that classic on Showtime, can you give the people who are going to be tuning in some little tidbits of what to watch for and when during that fight? What should we be picking up on?
Well, of course, before the fight, Johnny's corner had some issues, with the law, so they were getting removed from the arena, and I didn't know it at the time. This is after the fight when I realized what was going on. But I know going into the fight, when we were in the ring, I mean, we caught eyes, and I mean, it's showdown. Jimmy Lennon's doing the ring announcements, and I think that really had stirred up Johnny a lot to where he came across the ring and he shoved me into the ropes before they were doing the announcements. And the thing is I mean, I'm at the tip, ready to fight too. But I just remember the fight being taken away because of nothing, stupid reasons. But so I didn't want that to happen again. So I wanted to make sure that that the fight didn't get disqualified. I didn't get disqualified for some reaction that I waited, and so going into the fight, I knew. To me, I felt after that, that I kind of had Johnny where I needed him to be, which was I wanted him to fight me because I knew he had Freddie Roach in his corner. They were going to get him to box and stick and move. To me, I mean that would have been his best game plan. But then I knew I had to, whenever he shoved me, I felt that I had him. But then when the bell rang, he started boxing and he was moving pretty good. So I was trying to cut him off, and I knew that it was just a matter of time when I started catching him. The crowd started getting into it, and Johnny being an emotional fighter, I mean, all you hear is the oohs when I'm landing shots. And of course, by the third round, after that, he decided to stay there and fight me because, I mean, the crowd was already getting into it.
So yeah, that was a fan-friendly fight by that point. And we fans, it's easy for us to say, Paulie, right? Give me a fan-friendly fight. Well, what does that mean? Well, what that means is a lot of trading, not a lot of evading. And that's easy for me to want, but there are repercussions on you guys. So as I'm getting older and understanding better, CT and such, I'm not flippant about that. And I appreciate it. I appreciate what you guys gave to us, entertainment, and you gave portions of yourself. So we're looking at the third round and then the middle rounds. Do you remember any adaptations you made that changed the fight? Do you remember any of the momentum waves? Were there periods where you were feeling like you were in a little bit of trouble? Talk to me about those middle rounds and then moving towards the later rounds.
I never felt I was in trouble. I always felt I was in control. As long as I had him staying there and fighting me, that was more something that was more my style of what I needed to work with. But I remember in the eighth round, again, taking the crowd out of it. In the eighth round, he tries to hype him up again, and he starts waving his hand in the air, and so it got him, it got the crowd in the game. But I also did the same thing, out of my character, and I was really into the fight, so so I was able to take that away from him again. And then it wasn't until like the 12th round he tried it again. He tried to rally up the crowd to get remotivated. I'm not sure, to kind of seal the deal. And by then, the crowd was taken out of it. They all started booing him whenever he did do that. I mean, a lot of people don't realize, because they weren't there, and you can't hear it during the fight. But all this was going around. Even as I watched the fight after, the great Emmanuel Stewart, the late great Emmanuel Stewart, he had came to Ferdy Pacheco and told him I was fighting, the perfect fight. I mean, it was a lot of things you know, that were in between, the details that people don't remember. They see the fight and they're listening to the commentator, so they get kind of swayed. And I'm not saying, but I was confident that I had won the fight. And I didn't hear the Spanish version, but I know Alexis Arguello, the late great Alexis Arguello, he called it on the Spanish network, and their Ring Magazine had an interview with him after the fight, and he even said, Johnny looked like a defeated fighter. He had said, he had bruises and lacerations around his face, like and looked like a defeated fighter. So all these things, when I look back, there were guys that saw what I saw, and and the crowd knew as well. So but the fight itself, it's always exciting to watch. I continue watching it every so often, and
Every
unfortunately,
time you win when you watch it?
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. I try to watch it unbiased though. Because I want to learn. I want to learn, continue to learn from that fight. And
That's great that
but
you say that. What year were you born now?
I was born in 1970.
All right. You're around my
Yeah,
age,
this is a
and you
this is a
still
big
want to
week for
learn. I
me.
like that.
This is a big week for me. I'm on the 22nd next week, Tuesday. I turn 50 years old, man. So I'm trying to continue to learn. They say you can't teach old dog new tricks, but I'm trying to figure this stuff out. Just technology, everything.
Still, old dogs, we don't want to get old prematurely, so we got to keep learning. All right, I'm going to be the first one to sing you now. I'm going to amend it quick because we only got a couple minutes left. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ayala. Happy birthday, the big 5-0.
Boom. Thank you.
All right, quick. Watching the first one, what do you want people to take away?
I went in as a 6-1 underdog. I had lost my first world title shot, and I was coming out for my second world title shot against a 46-0 Johnny Tapia, the great Johnny, but also the great Freddie Roach was in his corner. And I'm fighting against Showtime as well. Because Johnny had been a Showtime fighter for years. So I was fighting three giants at once. So to overcome that. I gave my whole heart into the fight. I gave everything I had. I collapsed. I didn't just fall. I was at a complete exhaustion. I gave everything I had, and that's what it took to defeat a guy like Johnny. And thankfully, I continued to defend that title and went up to win more titles, and gave the best that I could in boxing.
1999 Fight of the Year. I'm going to be putting onto my Twitter where and when to watch it. Where can people find out more about you, Paulie?
I mean, I have a website, uhkgym.com. I have a program, punching-out-parkinson's.org. I mean, I do a lot of different things. You can look us up on Instagram, Paulie Ayala University Hard Knocks, or I mean, you look me up, Paulie Ayala on Facebook.
And then watching the rematch, what do you want people to learn or look for while they're doing that?
On the rematch, I mean, it was a totally different fight because now I'm going in as a champion. So I'm expecting him to come and take what I got. But you know, I mean, there was a lot of concessions to make that second fight. I mean, you know, he didn't want to fight me for my bantamweight title, so we fought at a catch weight and at 123, which you know, I gave him the bigger purse. I mean, I had to do everything to make that fight happen. So. I just wish it would have came out as exciting, but you know, I mean, I boxed them. I did a whole different game plan. They were expecting me to do the same thing, you know, and I countered them, and you know, I landed the cleaner shots, and you know, I was again, you know, the commentator and everything. You know, I mean, I don't feel that, you know, I mean, you know, there's always things that I see that maybe that they're thinking they see, but I just feel that. If you turn down the volume, you see a better fight.
Well, it's funny. Sometimes 20 years can pass and shit still sticks in your head. And people might think when they're young, oh, I'll get over it. You can get over it to an extent, but shit still sticks in your head, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
And
part
you
of living.
remember.
Yeah.
Well, that's how you learn. I mean, your experiences. You know, I remember. You know, I forgive, but I don't forget. You know, I mean, it's easy.
Fighting Pride of Fort Worth, Texas. And then I'm going to end with asking, everything okay over there, friends and family during this virus lockdown, shutdown, strange period in our world history? Everything okay?
Yeah, thankfully, I mean, you know, we've been bunkered down since March 17th, man. I had to shut down my gym. So we're doing online training, which, I mean, you know, a lot of the people at my gym, I mean, they're never going to fight. They just train to work out. But I mean, we do, it's a physical gym. So I know they're missing hitting the mitts and hitting the bags like we do. And, you know, the shields that we do, doing all the drills. But, you know, I just hope everyone stays safe until then. And, you know, and then once this is over, the dust settles, we'll get right back into it.
All right, Paulie, and I think then you're like me. You know, I live in New York, so I'm seeing a lot of this stuff. I'm doing a lot of the reading about what's going on in those intensive care units and such, and the frontline medical people. And I think you share with me, brother, this ain't no joke. This ain't no little flu, especially if you're older, but it can hit younger people too hard. So I'm telling people, even if you're not in New York or one of these hot spots, respect the power of this thing. Be smart. Distance yourself. Use the Purell. Use the mask, etc. Because it isn't no joke. It's not something to joke about and think this is just the flu. Too many people are getting hit too hard by this damn thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm taking every precaution. Plus, you know, still exercising, training, running, making sure my immune system is good.
All right, listen, I want to say thank you so much for taking your time. I'm going to be tuning in on Showtime. As I said, I will put the information on when people can watch. And it was a pleasure and an honor talking to you, my friend.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, peace. You be well. Stay well,
yes,
all you good people in Texas, okay?
Thank you. Yeah, you too, guys. Thank you.
Peace, man.
Yes, sir.